chosen one. Listen, the silence around you is not emptiness, it is heaven holding its breath. Something has shifted. The Spirit of God has marked this moment because you obeyed when no one was watching. You didn't choose the easy path. You didn't chase approval. You chose truth over comfort, integrity over convenience, faith over fear. And now heaven is confirming what your heart already knew. You did the right thing. There were days when you wondered if it even mattered. You gave when you had little, forgave when you had every reason to stay bitter, walked away from what looked glittering but was not gold. You could have blended in, but you didn't. You stood alone in the wilderness while others laughed from the crowd. Yet what they saw as loss was actually your preparation for favor. God saw you. He saw every quiet yes that cost you something. He saw your trembling obedience and your private surrender. It is revealed in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we shall reap. If we do not give up, you did not give up. That's why this word has found you. This is your due season. The ground that once resisted you is about to release a harvest. What seemed forgotten was never unseen. Heaven keeps records your patience, your faithfulness, your tears. Every silent moment of endurance has been stored as worship. When others mocked you for staying kind, heaven applauded. When you forgave without apology, heaven opened another door in your name. When you refused to return evil for evil, angels recorded it as righteousness. You were not weak, you were wise. Obedience is the highest form of strength. And now that strength is about to be crowned with favor, there were moments when you almost turned back, nights when you whispered, God, did I do the right thing? The enemy tried to convince you that obedience was foolish, that silence was useless, that surrender meant defeat. But look around, peace has not left you. Protection has not left you. Grace has not left you. That is proof that you made the right choice. The fruit of obedience is always peace, even before the blessing arrives. Chosen one. Understand this. Your obedience triggered divine order. The delay was not denial. It was divine timing, aligning in your favor. The people who left you had to go, so the ones assigned to your next season could find you. The job you lost, the door that closed, the conversation that ended, all of it was God redirecting your steps toward promise. What you thought was rejection was actually redirection. Heaven is now releasing restoration. The favor attached to your name cannot be hidden anymore. You will begin to notice divine reversals, misunderstandings cleared, opportunities reappearing, strength returning. The same way clouds hide the sun for a moment, your season of obscurity was never the end. The light is breaking through. The Spirit says, do not doubt your obedience. What you gave up cannot compare to what is coming. You traded temporary pleasure for eternal favor. You refused shortcuts because you trusted God's process. And now, that process is producing something unshakable in you: character, authority, and a peace that cannot be taken. You may feel small, but heaven calls you mighty. You may feel unseen, but the throne has noticed you. Obedience is never wasted. It always finds its echo in eternity. God is about to let you see what your yes built in silence. Your name is being whispered in rooms your feet have not yet entered. Divine favor is walking ahead of you to prepare the way. So lift your head. You didn't miss your moment. You became the moment. What you did in secret has summoned heaven's reward in public. The harvest is already growing. The sound of breakthrough is near. If this word speaks to your spirit, let your response be your agreement. Type 777 below as a prophetic sign that you receive this confirmation. Like and share this message so others may be reminded that doing the right thing is never in vain. And subscribe to stay connected. For the same God who honored your obedience will keep revealing what comes next. You did the right thing. And now, God's favor is upon you. Walk in that truth. Your season of silence has ended. Divine favor is speaking for you now. Walk boldly. Heaven has already gone before your next step. Grace surrounds you. Chosen one, every closed door becomes proof that God Himself redirected your destiny toward greater things ahead. You remember the nights when your faith was tested in silence, when the world slept and you lay awake, replaying decisions that seemed to cost too much. You asked God if He saw you, if He still had a plan, if your obedience meant anything at all. The silence felt endless, almost cruel. But what you didn't know then was that heaven was closer in the quiet than it ever was in the noise. Every unanswered prayer was being woven into a larger promise. Every delay was refining your heart, stripping away pride, teaching you how to trust without proof. You were not being punished. You were being perfected. The waiting was the classroom where your faith matured. The tears that fell on your pillow were not wasted. They watered the soil of your destiny. There's something sacred about those nights of questioning. They strip away the illusions of control. They expose what's real. It's in those moments that God measures the weight of your trust. When no one cheers you on, when no one sees your sacrifice, when all you have is a whisper of faith, that is when your obedience becomes powerful. Heaven is drawn to that kind of faith. It is faith that doesn't need proof to continue. You didn't realize it, but heaven was recording every sigh, every breath, every tear. The same God who counts the stars also counts your moments of surrender. Nothing escaped His notice. The silence that once haunted you was God's way of shaping a deeper voice inside you, the voice that says, even if I see nothing, I still believe. Nah, you learn to walk without guarantees. You learn to praise without results. That is what separates the chosen from the crowd. Many want blessings, but few are willing to endure the quiet discipline that produces lasting favor. You, however, endured. That's why there's a calmness resting on your spirit now, a holy assurance that you are exactly where you need to be. In those long stretches of stillness, when nothing seemed to move, heaven was actually at work behind the veil. God was setting the stage for the unfolding of His promise. Sometimes favor hides in delay because the blessing has to mature before it's revealed. If it had come too soon, it might have destroyed you. But now you are strong enough to handle it. Your heart has been softened, your motives purified. You no longer chase recognition, you seek alignment. You no longer fight to be understood, you rest in being chosen. What was once pain has become perspective, and what was once confusion has become clarity. The silence taught you to listen to God's timing instead of your own impatience. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 55, verse 9. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. You see now, it was never about what you could figure out, it was always about what you could trust. Every unanswered question was answered by his presence. Every closed door was his mercy in disguise. The stillness that felt empty was actually full of his design. You've grown in ways words can't explain. You've developed an intimacy with God that can't be shaken by circumstance. You've learned that divine silence is not absence, it's preparation. And now, because you didn't walk away, you carry a strength that others will feel, even when you say nothing. Chosen one. Your faith under pressure became the seed of your breakthrough. You endured the test. And in doing so, you became unshakable. Your obedience under silence has positioned you for the sound of divine fulfillment. Heaven is not rushing. You are being aligned with eternal timing. And when it happens, it will happen suddenly. The same stillness that once hurt you will now become the calm before your miracle. The silence once felt like punishment, but now you see, it was protection. God hid you until your heart could hold the weight of the blessing without breaking under it. You were not forgotten. You were preserved. Every delay guarded you from counterfeit opportunities that could have destroyed what God was building quietly within your spirit. Now your peace speaks louder than your pain ever did. The storms you survived have become proof that obedience is never wasted when heaven's hand is guiding your path. Stand still and breathe. Your season has shifted. What once tested you will now testify for you. And everything that was silent will soon sing of your faithfulness. There are moments when heaven feels close enough to touch, when your spirit knows something sacred has been recorded above. Every act of obedience, every time you chose to remain faithful, is written in heaven's archives. You may have thought your sacrifice went unnoticed, but the kingdom keeps detailed records. Nothing righteous ever disappears into silence. Every yes, whispered through tears, became a declaration that you trust God's way more than your own. You didn't realize it, but your restraint in moments of provocation was warfare. Your gentleness in chaos was a weapon of light. When you could have responded in anger but chose mercy instead, the atmosphere shifted. Demons lost their grip because you refused to play by their rules. The discipline to hold your peace has carried more power than 1,000 words ever could. Heaven calls that maturity, walking in authority without needing to prove it. When you walked away from gossip, heaven applauded. When you forgave quietly without recognition, angels took note. When you sowed generosity though you were running low, heaven marked it as eternal investment. You were proving that your heart belonged to a higher kingdom. Each hidden act of righteousness has added to your spiritual account. Nothing has been wasted. The same God who saw your tears will now reward your purity. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Hebrews, chapter 6, verse 10, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. He has not forgotten you. The world may overlook quiet goodness, but heaven remembers every detail. When others step on integrity for applause, you stood firm in conviction. When others rushed ahead, chasing recognition, you waited for divine instruction. That patience will soon pay off. Your obedience has not expired. It is still speaking on your behalf in heavenly places. Chosen one, understand this. Obedience is not a one-time act. It's a rhythm. It builds a frequency heaven responds to. Every time you choose to do what is right, when it would be easier to compromise, your spirit emits a sound that catches divine attention. You are training your atmosphere to obey the voice of God. And because of that, Favor is being magnetized to your name. Heaven has already released assignments connected to your faithfulness. You may not see them yet, but they are moving in alignment with your steps. Destiny unfolds for those who stay consistent in righteousness. The unseen world recognizes your signature of obedience. It is like a spiritual fragrance that draws the presence of God closer wherever you go. Do not grow weary now. The reward is near, not only in material form, but in spiritual authority. You will soon speak, and things will shift because of your purity. God trusts those who have proven faithful in silence. This is why your words will begin to carry power. They are backed by heaven's record of integrity. You were never working for human approval. That's why your reward won't come from people. It will come from heaven itself. God will surprise you with restoration in areas you forgot you sacrificed. The relationships that left, the doors that closed, the opportunities that vanished, all will return in divine form, multiplied and sanctified. Now take a moment and reflect. You've been tested, refined, and recorded. Heaven has kept your story safe. You are not waiting for favor. Favor has been waiting for this version of you, stronger, purer, wiser. The record of your obedience is complete. And now the release begins. Comment, I am seen. Not for recognition, but as an act of faith declaring that heaven has acknowledged your endurance. When you write those words, you're not reminding God of what you've done. You're reminding your soul that nothing you've suffered was wasted. Heaven has seen. Heaven has written. Heaven will now reward. Heaven's recognition is not measured by applause. It is measured by alignment. When your heart beats in rhythm with God's will, every silent sacrifice becomes a symphony that reaches His throne. Your record in heaven is spotless, sealed by grace. God Himself signs your obedience with favor, ensuring no act of goodness fades into the forgetfulness of time. Every season of surrender has built invisible strength inside you. What you thought was loss was actually layering your spirit with unshakable faith that will sustain you for what's next. Now you will see the evidence of heaven's memory opportunities resurrected, peace restored, honor returned. Nothing you've endured was wasted. It all led you into divine remembrance and reward. When doors closed before you, it wasn't a curse, it was direction. You thought something was being taken from you, but heaven was actually protecting what you could not yet see. Every no you heard echoed the sound of divine redirection. God was never denying you. He was guiding you toward a higher alignment. The things you lost were not meant to anchor your destiny. The hands that released you were not strong enough to carry your calling. You cried over certain endings because you misunderstood them. You assumed closed doors meant rejection. But in truth, they were preservation. Some opportunities looked golden, but were coated in compromise. Some relationships seemed right, but carried hidden destruction. God saw what you couldn't, and in His mercy, He shut what would have shattered you. What felt like delay was actually divine defense. You were not being punished. You were being positioned. The closed doors of the past have become monuments of protection. Every place that refused you, every voice that dismissed you, was unknowingly creating space for something higher to emerge. What left your life did not weaken your purpose, it purified it. Your obedience in walking away from what no longer aligned with your spirit marked a turning point in heaven's eyes. The redirection you resisted became the path to restoration. Think about it. If every door had opened, you might have walked into destruction disguised as opportunity. God's favor sometimes hides behind frustration. The detours that confused you were really holy, interruptions designed to prevent disaster. There were jobs, friendships, and even dreams that looked appealing but were too small for your assignment. Had you stayed, your growth would have suffocated. So heaven intervened. You didn't understand it then. But every disappointment was a compass pointing toward destiny. You prayed for blessings, and God answered by removing distractions. You prayed for clarity, and He answered by stripping away noise. You prayed for peace, and He answered by taking you away from people who thrived on chaos. The more you resisted, the more He redirected. Looking back, can you see how every loss led you closer to purpose? The Word of God declares in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 7, what He opens, no one can shut, and what He shuts, no one can open. All. That truth has governed your journey. Every locked gate was intentional. Every blocked path was heaven's, not this way. And now, as new doors begin to appear, you will walk with discernment, born from those lessons. You'll no longer chase what glitters, because you've learned to recognize what glows with God's light. Those closed doors also tested your humility. Could you still worship when things didn't go your way? Could you praise through disappointment? Could you bless others while you were bleeding? You did. That's why your spirit matured. The closed doors didn't make you bitter, they made you better. They taught you how to stand still until heaven moved again. Now the same God who closed those doors is opening new ones, doors that fit your spirit, not your ego. These openings won't require you to compromise your peace. They will align with your purpose. You'll step through them without striving, because favor doesn't compete, it simply arrives. You'll walk into places that were once impossible, not by force, but by divine invitation. Don't rush. Let each new door unfold naturally. God's timing has been perfect all along. Every delay prepared you to handle what's coming. You've learned patience, discernment, and gratitude, the keys to sustaining divine opportunity. You won't need to knock endlessly this time. The door will recognize your anointing. Chosen one. Take peace in knowing that the doors that shut were never meant for your ruin. They were heaven's signal that your season there was complete. The same hand that closed them will now open pathways where walls once stood. You're about to see the wisdom behind every redirection, and it will make you thank God for what didn't work out. You will look back and realize that the very things you begged God to let you keep would have broken you. The very people you mourned losing were blocking your growth. The pain you felt from the closing was real, but the protection behind it was greater. Heaven never subtracts without intention. It clears space for expansion. You are walking proof that divine redirection leads to divine restoration. Your steps are now synchronized with heaven's rhythm. You are no longer fighting to be where you don't belong. Peace has replaced striving, and clarity has replaced confusion. Every no you endured was really God's way of saying, "Wait, I have something better." Stand in that revelation. Let gratitude rise where regret once lived. Trust that what's meant for you will never require force to obtain. The right door will open at the right time. And when it does, you'll understand why every other one had to close. You have reached a turning point in your journey. Heaven has placed a mark upon you, an invisible seal of divine approval. Everything you went through, every moment of waiting, and every act of obedience has brought you to this threshold. Now the heavens whisper, "You are ready." There is something extraordinary about being recognized by heaven. It's not about crowns or applause, it's about alignment. When you said yes to God's will, even when it hurt, you didn't just obey, you became a vessel of His glory. That quiet surrender was not forgotten. The light of divine favor is now resting upon you, and soon it will become visible to others. Those who once questioned your silence will witness your rise. The same people who looked away will now see the evidence of what obedience births. But remember, favor is not for boasting, it's for building. You have been entrusted with influence, not for self-exaltation, but for service. God's favor comes with responsibility, to shine His light where darkness still hides. The Word of God speaks in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." Oh, you are that light now. You are the evidence that obedience leads to glory. Heaven has approved you, not because of perfection, but because of persistence. Every step you took in faith has carved a path for others to follow. Your story will awaken courage in those who thought their obedience was invisible. Now, as you stand beneath the warmth of God's favor, remember to let that same light flow outward. The love that sustained you was never meant to stop with you. It was meant to travel through your words, your kindness, your prayers, your giving. You have become part of something larger than yourself. A living testimony that faith still works. Take a moment and breathe. You are walking in grace that many only dream about. The storms didn't destroy you. They trained you to carry blessing without arrogance. The delays didn't break you. They strengthened your spiritual muscles. What you carry now is sacred. And as you walk in favor, let humility remain your fragrance. And as this message speaks to your soul, if you feel it has nourished you, inspired you, or reminded you that heaven still sees you, then consider planting a seed back into the soil that feeds you. Not because you are required to, not because it's a condition, but because generosity keeps the river of blessing flowing. Think of it like a lamp placed on a windowsill. When you share its light, a traveler in the dark finds his way home. So, if this message touched your heart like it, share it and subscribe. Each action becomes a spark in someone else's night. And if your heart feels a gentle pull to support this work, to donate in any way, see it not as giving away, but as pouring oil into a lamp so the flame never dies. Your gift, no matter the size, becomes light that keeps shining long after you've gone. When you like, you fan the flame. When you share, you pass the torch. When you subscribe, you stand among the keepers of light. And when you give, you become the oil that sustains it. There's something holy about giving when no one asks. When it flows naturally from gratitude, that kind of giving carries the fragrance of heaven. It says, "God has been good to me, and I want others to feel this goodness too." It's never about the amount, it's about the intent. Even a small drop of water can refresh a thirsty seed. Your support, whether in prayer, in sharing, in giving, keeps this flow of light alive. It's how the message travels from one heart to another, from one city to another, like ripples across still water. When you give, you become part of that current of grace, unseen but deeply felt. So, if your spirit feels moved, Act gently on that nudge. Like, share, subscribe, or give if you feel led, not as duty, but as devotion. Remember, generosity is worship in motion. Chosen one, you are marked by divine approval. Walk confidently in that truth. Your obedience has opened a door that no man can close, and your generosity, whether in kindness, faith, or support, will only cause that door to widen. This message is not about asking, it's about alignment. Heaven's work continues through willing hearts. You are one of those hearts. Let your light remain. Let your peace flow. And let your giving, whatever form it takes, become a quiet miracle that never runs dry. There are seasons when heaven hides its blessings beneath the surface, and you stand in stillness, wondering if anything is moving at all. Yet beneath what your eyes cannot see, the soil is alive. Every seed of faith you planted in tears is breaking open. You thought the waiting meant you were forgotten, but the truth is that delay has been your divine disguise. Heaven often conceals its miracles so that they can mature in peace. A promise revealed too early becomes fragile, but one hidden in silence grows roots deep enough to survive the storm. That's where you are now rooted. Your obedience has taken hold beneath the surface, and though you may not yet see the fruit, the foundation is solid. It's easy to praise when doors swing open, but real faith blooms in waiting. Waiting rewrites your instincts. It teaches you to trust the invisible more than the obvious. Every time you chose patience over panic, heaven smiled. What you thought was inactivity was actually alignment. God was not withholding from you, He was arranging what would sustain you. The Spirit spoke through the writings of the prophet Habakkuk. Chapter 2, verse 3. The vision awaits its appointed time, though it linger. Wait for it. It will surely come and will not delay. Your vision has not died. It has only been delayed for its perfect unveiling. God has been preparing not just the blessing, but the atmosphere that will protect it. If it had come earlier, the wrong people might have mishandled it. If it had come too quickly, pride might have stolen the glory meant for God alone. So the delay was divine mercy dressed as stillness. You have been in a cocoon season, quiet, hidden, misunderstood. The world only sees stillness, but heaven says transformation. Inside that stillness, you have been stretched, reshaped, and prepared for flight. The caterpillar cannot imagine the sky while crawling. But transformation doesn't require understanding, only surrender. And now, the shift is beginning. You'll notice subtle signs. First, peace returning, strength rebuilding, divine coincidences reappearing. Those are heaven's hints that the incubation is complete. You are about to see the fruits of patience burst through the soil of delay. The timing will seem sudden, but it's only sudden to you. Heaven has been planning this reveal all along. Chosen one, you must remember, favor delayed is not favor denied. Just as the tides return to the shore, blessings delayed always find their way back to obedience. You didn't lose momentum, you gained maturity. And maturity can hold miracles without breaking beneath their weight. The temptation in waiting is to give up just before manifestation. That's why this word comes to you now, to steady your heart for the moment just before breakthrough. When impatience whispers, remember, the promise was planted by God, and what He plants, He finishes. You are standing on the edge of the unveiling. The pain that once drained you will soon serve you. Every day you stayed faithful was a spiritual investment. Every time you refused to quit, you were storing strength for this moment. Heaven does not measure time as you do, it measures growth. What took years in the natural was only preparation in the spirit. And now, everything hidden is shifting into sight. You will soon look back and realize that nothing was wasted. The waiting, the tears, the long nights of questioning, they all became proof that your faith was real. You will walk into blessings you no longer chase because they are chasing you. You will step into rooms where peace goes before you, like light before sunrise. This is your confirmation. The delay has ended. What was once restrained is now released. What was hidden is now ready. The favor that was forming beneath the surface is breaking through. Take a breath and let this truth settle in your soul. Your patience has paid off. And to mark this moment of divine completion, leave your sign of agreement below. Comment 444. It is not superstition, it is a prophetic symbol of completion, of the alignment between heaven and earth. When you write it, you are declaring that you trust God's timing, that you embrace His process, and that you believe what is maturing beneath the surface will soon be made manifest. Let that be your act of faith tonight. Heaven records obedience not just in action, but in acknowledgement. So declare it, live it, and walk in it. The wait is over. You have not missed your moment. You have matured into it. What was once delayed will now arrive dressed in divine timing. This means your preparation has caught up with your promise, heaven's clock, and your obedience now tick in perfect rhythm, releasing favor without resistance. There comes a moment when heaven decides that silence has spoken long enough, when your patience has been proven, when your integrity has stood firm through storms, when your obedience has become unshakable, God begins the season of vindication. It is not revenge, it is revelation. Heaven begins to reveal what was hidden, defend what was doubted, and restore what was stolen. This is that moment for you. The weight you carried in secret is now being turned into strength in public. Every misunderstanding that bruised your name, every lie whispered behind your back, every unjust situation you endured in humility, God has seen them all. And in His timing, He is making all things right. Vindication does not always come through words. Sometimes it arrives through transformation. The same people who once questioned your faith will soon see the fruit of your faithfulness. They will not need to hear you defend yourself. They will see the evidence of God's hand upon your life. What once looked like failure will now become the frame through which others view God's mercy. You see, heaven does not forget. The scales of divine justice are precise. Even when they move slowly, every act of faith has a return, and every tear has a counterpart in grace. For a time, God allowed your name to be misunderstood so that your spirit could be purified. But now, the same God who watched in silence is stepping forward as your defender. The Word of God declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 6, He will make your righteousness shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. End of. You do not have to force your case. You do not have to correct the narrative. The light of truth travels slower than lies. But when it arrives, it never fades. God is positioning your story to speak for itself. Where others tried to bury your character, your endurance will now bloom like flowers breaking through concrete. Vindication is not loud, it's luminous. It doesn't argue, it ascends. It doesn't prove, it shines. The best evidence that you were right is the peace that follows your surrender. When you chose silence over retaliation, you gave heaven permission to act on your behalf. You stopped fighting for your reputation and started trusting God's revelation. That's why you will win without lifting a hand. This season of vindication will not be about exposing your enemies. It will be about elevating your calling. God is not trying to embarrass anyone. He's trying to exalt His purpose in you. What was once a place of pain will become a platform of power. The rejection that pushed you out was actually heaven's invitation to a higher level. Look closely, and you'll notice divine reversals already forming. Conversations that once excluded, you will now center around you. Projects you were denied will be offered again, this time with better conditions. People who dismissed your ideas will now seek your voice. It's not coincidence, it's compensation. You are stepping into the divine exchange, where pain transforms into purpose and waiting turns into reward. But even in vindication, humility must remain your guardrail. Do not let pride infect the blessing. God's justice is meant to heal, not humiliate. When favor begins to flow, remember how long it took to grow. Extend mercy to those who misunderstood you, for they too were part of your refining. Your response to vindication determines your next level of favor. If you boast, the blessing will shrink. If you bless, it will multiply. Let your victories speak quietly. Let gratitude do the talking. When people ask how it happened, simply say, God kept His promise. Emmy, chosen one. The tables are turning in your favor. The same soil that held your tears will now bear fruit. You will not need to announce your breakthrough. It will be undeniable. The purity of your endurance has made space for the power of His justice. Do not fear the light that's coming. You were built for it. What once felt like exposure is actually elevation. The truth is not coming to shame you, it's coming to show you. God will make your vindication visible enough that even the silent will have to acknowledge it. And as it unfolds, keep your heart steady. The goal is not to be seen, it's to be settled. You are not proving your worth, you are walking in it. The peace you carry now will be the loudest answer to every false word ever spoken against you. Your vindication is not a scene of revenge, it's a sunrise after a long night. The dawn does not shout, it simply appears, and darkness cannot argue with it. That is what your life will become, an undeniable dawn of divine justice. There is power in silence, but not the kind that hides in fear. It is the silence of strength, the calm of someone who no longer needs to prove their worth. You have learned the language of restraint, the quiet that confuses, the proud and disarms the bitter. The stillness within you is not emptiness, it is control under divine instruction. There were moments when you could have spoken, defended yourself, fought back, but something deeper whispered, "Be still." It wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. Heaven fights best in silence. Every time you chose peace over pride, you turned your battle into worship. The world sees silence as surrender, but heaven sees it as strategy. You learned that not every accusation deserves a response. Some words are traps designed to drag your spirit into chaos. When you stayed quiet, you didn't lose, you won. You refused to trade your crown for a moment of anger. You protected your peace like a priceless jewel, and in doing so, you honored God's timing. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, Chapter 62, verse 5. My soul, wait silently for God alone, for my expectation is from Him. And that is the power you carry now, the ability to wait in silence without losing faith. The world confuses silence with defeat, but God calls it discipline. You no longer need noise to feel strong. The strength within you has grown deeper than words. You have become anchored, immovable, unshaken by the storms of gossip or rejection. The power of a quiet spirit terrifies darkness because it cannot be manipulated. When you no longer react to provocation, you remove the enemy's favorite weapon. You become untouchable, not because you have no emotions, but because your emotions have learned to bow to peace. That's what true authority looks like. Composure under pressure. Your silence has been misunderstood by many, yet heaven has understood it perfectly. When you walked away instead of arguing, angels documented your obedience. When you forgave without explanation, you declared your loyalty to God's justice. When you chose not to expose someone's wrongdoing, you gave space for heaven's mercy to work. That's not silence out of fear, it's silence full of faith. The quiet spirit is not passive, it's prophetic. It speaks through presence, through patience, through peace that confuses chaos. When you stopped explaining yourself, you started embodying truth. Those who needed to hear your defense would not have believed it anyway. But when they see your fruit, they will understand everything words could never express. The silence you have carried has reshaped your spirit. It has taught you when to speak and when to wait. You've learned that peace doesn't mean avoidance, it means mastery. Silence doesn't ignore conflict, it elevates above it. It doesn't hide weakness, it reveals wisdom. And now, your calmness is your crown. You have become the kind of person who can stand in a storm without shouting at the wind. That's the strength of someone who has walked with God through enough trials to trust His unseen hand. The peace that rests on you now is not accidental, it's earned through endurance. In the past, you sought validation. You wanted others to see your heart, to understand your intentions. But heaven used the silence to teach you that divine approval is enough. When you learned to rest in that truth, you were set free from the weight of being understood. Your silence became your sanctuary. Now, you move differently. You speak less but carry more authority. You choose stillness. Not because you have nothing to say, but because not everything deserves your voice. The more you mature in faith, the keener your battle become. The strength of your silence will soon reveal itself in unexpected ways. People will notice your peace before they hear your words. They will sense your authority before you open your mouth. That's what happens when God refines a warrior into a peacemaker. Your quiet presence will shift rooms, not through volume, but through vibration, because heaven resonates where humility dwells. So rest in your quietness. It is not absence, it is armor. You have mastered what few ever learn, to let God speak louder than your defense. Your silence has become your greatest testimony, proof that trust is stronger than talk. Your quiet strength has become a shield of light. No weapon of words can pierce it. Heaven now fights for you while you simply stand clothed in calm authority. Those who once misread your silence will one day honor it. For your restraint revealed more power than argument ever could. Your peace has proven the presence of God within you. There comes a sacred moment when heaven shifts the story entirely, when everything that was once against you begins to work for you. What once broke you now builds you. The very things that made you weep are now becoming the proof of your calling. This is that moment. The air feels different because heaven has reversed the verdict. The weight you once carried is being lifted. You no longer walk as the one accused, but as the one affirmed. The pain that tried to define you has lost its authority. God is rewriting what others declared over your life. And this time, the final word comes from the throne, not from human lips. The verdict of heaven always cancels the judgment of earth. It may not make sense yet, but you are standing in the very place where the story changes. The shadows that chased you are now behind you, not before you. The wounds that once bled shame now shine with redemption. Every false word, every misjudgment, every closed door, they all led you here, to the place where heaven speaks louder than the past. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 8, verse 31, still echo today. If God is for us, who can be against us? That truth is no longer just a verse to you. It's your lived reality. You've seen what happens when God steps into your defense. You've watched how peace silences accusation, how grace erases guilt, and how divine favor turns delay into destiny. The war that once surrounded your name has ended, not by your fight, but by His faithfulness. You didn't need to convince anyone. You simply needed to remain consistent. Heaven works best with endurance. While others doubted, you kept believing. While others talked, you kept building. And now, the fruit of your steadfastness is appearing for all to see. Vindication is not just external, it's internal. You no longer need the world's approval to feel whole. The same people who once saw your struggle will soon see your strength. They will wonder how you recovered, how you stood back up, how your peace never ran out. But you will know the truth. It wasn't your doing. It was the unseen hand of God rewriting the entire chapter while you stood still. Heaven has declared a reversal. Where there was shame, there will be honor. Where there was loss, there will be restoration. Where there was confusion, there will be clarity. You are about to walk into divine correction, not as a victim, but as evidence of mercy. You are not the same person who entered the storm. The trials purified you. The waiting matured you, and the pain refined you. What was meant to destroy you has become the platform for your testimony. The enemy tried to bury you in silence, but heaven planted you in purpose. What rose from that soil is something the world cannot uproot. The verdict has changed, and so has your identity. You are no longer someone trying to prove worth. You are someone living from divine approval. The anxiety that once chained your thoughts will break as peace settles in. Every scar will now preach what your words cannot, proof that grace wins. The shift you're feeling is not imagination. It's the sound of chains falling in unseen places. God has issued a divine order. Release my chosen one. Heaven's gavel has struck. And what once held you captive must now let you go. Comment, set free. End of tea. Not as a ritual, but as a declaration. When you write those two words, you're not typing letters, you're testifying. You're announcing to the atmosphere that the reversal has been completed, that freedom has been granted, and that you accept what heaven has decreed over your life. This is not a symbolic act, it's a prophetic one. It marks the moment where your soul agrees with what heaven already decided. The chains have fallen. The case is closed. You are free indeed. Walk in this truth now. You don't need to defend your freedom. Just live it. The same voice that called Lazarus out of the tomb has called you out of your own darkness. Step forward. The light belongs to you now. You are walking out of what once defined you, leaving behind the echoes of fear and failure. Every step forward is heaven's confirmation that nothing lost will stay buried. This means your identity is no longer tied to survival, but to purpose. To be set free is more than escaping the past. It is learning to live unafraid of tomorrow, carrying peace as your proof of victory, and walking boldly into the life grace already prepared for you. Promotion in the kingdom of God doesn't arrive with noise, it arrives with presence. You have been lifted quietly, without announcement, without applause. Yet everything about you is beginning to change. Heaven has shifted your position in the unseen realm. Doors will respond differently to you now, not because you pushed harder, but because grace opened them before you arrived. You are no longer walking as someone waiting for favor. You are walking as someone carrying it. There's a weight on your spirit, gentle yet powerful, a holy gravity that draws blessings toward you. Heaven has whispered your name in rooms you've never entered. Opportunities are moving in your direction because God's hand has placed an invisible mark of distinction upon you. This promotion didn't come from men, it came from endurance. You've proven trustworthy with the small things. You remained faithful in silence, and that silence became your staircase. The unseen obedience built the platform for visible favor. You have been promoted not by title, but by transformation. The apostle reminds us in his first letter to Peter, chapter 5, verse 6, "Humble yourselves under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time." And that time has arrived. You are being lifted, not in arrogance, but in grace. You don't have to announce it. It will reveal itself. People will sense it in your calmness, in the way you speak with peace instead of pressure. The promotion that comes from heaven doesn't make noise, it makes impact. But as you ascend, remember what brought you here: humility, faith, and love. These are the anchors that keep favor from turning into pride. The higher God lifts you, the deeper your roots must remain in gratitude. When God promotes you, he doesn't just give you more, he trusts you with more hearts, more influence, more responsibility. This is not about climbing ladders, it's about carrying light higher so that more can see. Favor is never selfish. It multiplies when it's shared. So, if this message touches your spirit, if it reminds you of what you've endured and what you're stepping into, consider letting your gratitude travel outward. Like this message, share it with someone who's still in the waiting room of faith. Subscribe, not as a follower, but as a companion on this journey of light. Each act of engagement is more than digital, it's devotional. When you like, you're saying, "I agree with the truth." When you share, you're placing a lantern in someone else's night. When you subscribe, you're choosing to stay close to a river that keeps your faith flowing. And if your heart feels a quiet nudge to give, to donate, do it as a sacred gesture, not a transaction. Imagine this message as a garden you've eaten of its fruit, felt its peace. And now, through your seed, you make room for another to find nourishment. Giving is not losing, it's watering the soil that fed you. It's how light expands. Your support, whether in words, prayers, or offerings, helps the message travel further, reaching the weary, the unseen, the forgotten. Every seed sown in love becomes a ripple in eternity. touching hearts you may never meet. Think of your giving as a candle you place in a window. Someone lost in darkness might look up and find direction by its glow. That's how heaven works. One spark becomes another's sunrise. You are never asked to give out of pressure, only out of overflow. No one can command generosity. True giving is like breath. It flows naturally when the heart is alive with gratitude. If this word has reminded you that God still sees you, that your promotion is real, that your light matters, then let your response come from love. You may give, you may share, you may simply whisper a prayer. Every act, when done with sincerity, becomes an offering that heaven records. There's no measure too small. Even a single act of kindness can travel farther than you imagine. The world may chase success, but you, chosen one, carry significance. You don't climb by striving, you rise by serving. Every time you lift someone else, you go higher yourself. That's the secret rhythm of divine promotion. It's not built on ambition, it's built on compassion. So keep your heart soft, your hands open, and your eyes lifted. The next doors opening before you are not random. They were crafted for the version of you that survived the last season. Walk through them humbly. Carry your light wisely. Let your elevation be gentle, so those still in the valley can follow your footsteps upward. Like, share, subscribe, or donate only if your heart smiles at the thought. Let every act be a whisper of gratitude, not an obligation. That's how heaven's kingdom expands. Through willing hearts, not pressured ones. You are walking in quiet promotion, chosen not to impress but to inspire. Let your rise be a testimony, not a performance. God's hand has lifted you. Now lift others with the same grace. There is a moment in every chosen life when something invisible shifts, when favor stops being occasional and starts becoming a constant companion. It's not the loud kind of favor that shouts for attention. It's quiet, steady, undeniable. You carry it now without even realizing it. People sense it before they can name it. Doors open before you knock. Conversations change tone when you enter the room. You are walking in divine distinction. This isn't pride, it's positioning. The light on you is not yours. It's God's reflection made visible through your obedience. You have become a vessel of His excellence. Where others rely on effort, you flow in grace. You no longer chase recognition, you attract purpose. That's what divine distinction does. It separates without isolating. It elevates without inflating. The hand of God is resting on your identity. What once felt like rejection was really selection. Heaven never forgets who it marks. You were not meant to blend in. Every misunderstanding, every lonely night, every delay, they all served to distinguish you. The fire you walked through was not punishment, it was purification. You carry the fragrance of someone who has survived refining. According to what is revealed in the book of Exodus, chapter 33, verse 16, what else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth? That was Moses' question. And now it becomes your reality. The difference is not in your wealth, not in your skill, but in the presence that walks with you. You could walk into an empty room and still shift the atmosphere because of who stands beside you. That's the mystery of divine distinction. It's never about visibility, it's about vibration. You were set apart to carry peace where there's confusion, wisdom where there's noise, and light where shadows gather. It's not something you perform, it's something you are. God's mark is on you like invisible armor. Those who come near will sense that they are in the company of someone who has seen God's mercy up close. The difference now is not how you speak, but how you stand. You walk slower, not out of hesitation, but out of awareness. You weigh your words, not because you fear mistakes, but because you know the weight your words carry. That's what happens when you've been distinguished by grace. Your presence becomes prophetic. Your silence becomes strength. Your gentleness becomes authority. Divine distinction does not make you untouchable, it makes you purposeful. You will find yourself drawn to assignments that stretch your compassion, to people who mirror your past struggles. That is by design. God elevates not to distance you, but to equip you. The light on your life is not for decoration, it's for direction. Others will find hope in the reflection that shines from your journey. Do not apologize for the favor you carry. You've paid a price for this peace. You've been misunderstood for this maturity. You've lost for this level of clarity. The mark on your life is not random, it's the evidence of divine trust. You've proven that you can handle blessing without becoming boastful. And that is why heaven keeps pouring more. You've stepped into a rhythm where grace feels natural. Not surprising. You no longer chase miracles, they follow you. You no longer pray out of panic, you pray out of partnership. You and heaven have become aligned in movement. Every decision now feels guided. Every path illuminated just enough for the next step. That is what living under divine distinction feels like, never lost, always led. And though this favor sets you apart, it doesn't isolate you. It draws the right people to your side, the ones who speak your language of faith, who carry similar fire, who are walking the same narrow path. You'll find yourself surrounded by those who understand spiritual excellence, not as pride, but as purpose. Hold this truth gently. Distinction is not about being better. It's about being chosen for something specific. God separates not to exclude, but to prepare. You've been preserved in silence so that your voice could carry purity when it finally speaks. The mark upon you is not just a blessing, it's a responsibility to live with integrity in every room heaven opens. So walk with calm confidence. You don't have to announce what you carry. The light does the announcing for you. Your presence will speak peace where chaos reigns and hope where despair lingers. That is the essence of divine distinction, being a walking reminder that God is still near, still merciful, still choosing ordinary lives to display extraordinary grace. Every act of obedience plants a seed, and every seed, no matter how small, contains a future harvest. You've sown in silence, watered in tears, and waited through seasons that seemed barren. But heaven never forgets a seed planted by faith. What you gave, what you surrendered, what you did quietly, out of love, it is all coming back, multiplied. There is a rhythm to divine increase. It rarely begins with abundance, it begins with emptiness. God allows you to give from what feels like lack so that you can see the supernatural law at work. Whatever is released in trust returns in overflow. You have lived this principle without even knowing it. Every time you forgave, every time you gave kindness where cruelty was shown, you were sowing spiritual wealth into unseen soil. The Word of God declares in the book of Luke, chapter 6, verse 38, "Give, and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap." That promise isn't limited to money. It reaches into every corner of life. When you sow peace, you reap peace multiplied. When you offer love, it returns purified. When you invest faith, heaven matches your measure with favor. You have reached the moment when your seeds have matured beneath the surface, and now the ground is trembling with life, ready to break through. You may not recognize it at first. The blessing may come disguised as an opportunity, a reconnection, or even a door that once closed, suddenly opening again. But watch closely. What once resisted you will now make room for you. God is returning what you thought was lost, but greater in form and deeper in purpose. Chosen one, you are about to experience the law of divine multiplication. The things you gave without applause will return with impact. The love you offered to those who couldn't return, it will now come back through people heaven assigns to honor your heart. The words of encouragement you spoke to others while you were breaking are now becoming strength spoken over you. Heaven is generous with those who gave when it hurt. Your increase won't be chaotic. It will be graceful. The same peace that taught you to wait will teach you how to receive. God's blessings are never rushed. They flow in perfect timing. Like a river that knows exactly when to reach the shore. You don't need to chase them. You simply need to stay positioned. Remember how long you waited, how much you trusted, how many times you chose faith over frustration. Those moments were not forgotten. They built the foundation for this season. You are standing in answered prayers that took years to form. Every tear became irrigation for the promise you're about to walk into. Increase is not just about addition, it's about expansion. Your influence, your wisdom, your compassion, all of them are stretching beyond what they once were. You will notice that even your perspective has grown richer. You will look at lack and no longer feel fear, because you've learned that supply is not measured by what's in your hand, but by who holds your future. Now, heaven invites you to mark this moment, to recognize it, to acknowledge that something sacred is unfolding around you. When heaven begins to multiply, it asks for one thing: agreement. Faith is agreement in motion. Comment 222. And it is a number of divine partnership and alignment, a prophetic sign that heaven and earth are now in sync concerning your life. When you type it, you are declaring, I am in agreement with God's timing, His provision, and His plan. The number 222 represents balance, faith, and the manifestation of promises. It is the echo of divine order coming into perfect harmony. This symbolic act is not superstition, it's a statement of faith. By writing 222, you affirm that your season of increase is not random, it is coordinated by heaven. You are acknowledging that your waiting was worth it and your harvest is due. It is a gesture of spiritual alignment, a simple yet powerful way of saying, I trust what God is unfolding right now. Lynn, the fields that once looked empty are now alive beneath your feet. The season of scarcity is closing, and the rhythm of abundance has begun. Everything you gave in obedience is now returning, with interest written in heaven's handwriting. So, stay expectant. Live open-handed. Keep the same generosity that started your journey. Because the one who gives freely never runs dry. The cycle of giving and receiving will continue. Not as a test, but as a testimony that those who trust God never lack, and those who sow in faith always reap in joy. The heaviest crowns are formed in the darkest fires. What you carried through the pain, the confusion, the loss was not in vain. It was the shaping of something eternal inside you. The crown that waits for you was not bought with comfort, but with endurance. Every night you cried and still chose to believe was a step closer to that coronation. Heaven does not forget those who suffer faithfully. You are stepping into the after season, after the storm, after the test, after the silence. What once felt like breaking was actually birthing. God was not destroying you. He was rebuilding you from the inside out. You've been refined in the fire of surrender. And what emerges from that kind of testing is always stronger, always purer, always destined. Pain was your teacher, but not your identity. It trained your spirit to recognize God's presence, even when His silence felt like absence. Every scar now carries wisdom. Every loss has created space for something more lasting to enter. You are no longer who you were before the trial. You have been crowned with clarity, dignity, and resilience. We find in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love Him." That crown is not just a future promise, it's already being formed in your character. You have become the living proof that perseverance produces glory. The cross you carried was never meant to crush you. It was the mold that shaped your authority. Every weight you bore has become a tool heaven now uses to elevate you. You've walked through valleys where faith was your only map. You've faced moments when surrender felt like defeat. Yet that surrender became your greatest strength. God trusted you with pain because He knew it wouldn't poison you. It would purify you. You've learned that true power is not loud, but steady. You now carry a kind of quiet majesty that only those who've been crushed and rebuilt can understand. Your crown is not made of gold, it's woven from grace. It shines with the reflection of every moment you chose love instead of bitterness, peace instead of retaliation, trust instead of fear. That's why heaven honors you now, not for perfection, but for persistence. You didn't quit when it was hard. You didn't curse the process. You stayed. And because you stayed, you are being crowned with glory that does not fade. The season of mourning is giving way to the season of meaning. Everything that once felt senseless now carries divine purpose. You'll see how every delay, every heartbreak, every detour was carefully measured by a God who wastes nothing. You'll begin to notice that what once hurt now helps others heal. That's the beauty of redemption. It turns your pain into purpose and your tears into testimony. This is your coronation of spirit. Heaven is not giving you a title, it's giving you territory. You've been proven trustworthy with pain, and now you're being trusted with influence. You will speak from scars, not from wounds. You will lead with empathy, not ego. The fire you endured didn't consume you. It branded you with authority. And as you rise, remember that crowns are heavy for a reason. They remind you to bow, even as you stand tall. Humility must remain your balance in this new elevation. You are not here to show off what you've survived, but to shine the light of the one who carried you through. Chosen one, wear your crown quietly. Let it gleam through your actions, through your gentleness, through your faith that no longer wavers. You don't need to declare your victory. You are the declaration. The light around you now is not borrowed, it's born of endurance. The kingdom within you has matured. You've proven that surrender is not losing, it's becoming. So, lift your head. not in pride, but in gratitude. The fire is over. The ashes have settled. What remains is gold, and that gold is you. Your crown has found its rightful place. Heaven smiles. Earth watches. And your story continues to shine as living proof that perseverance still leads to glory. The light upon your life now speaks louder than any storm you've survived. Every scar has become a jewel set into your invisible crown of endurance. You are walking testimony that divine fire refines, not ruins. What once tried to silence you has instead anointed you to carry peace, strength, and unshakable faith wherever you go. There is a shift happening even now, a change in the wind that carries your destiny. You can sense it before you see it. Like the way the air feels before rain, the same winds that once pushed against you are beginning to turn in your favor. What used to resist you will now propel you forward. The tide has turned, and this time, it's moving with you, not against you. You spent so long walking against the current that you learned how to move with endurance. But now, God says, rest your strength. Let my current carry you. The battles that once exhausted you have lost their authority. The opposition that once drained you has been overruled by grace. You are no longer surviving resistance. You are gliding in divine momentum. This change won't come with chaos, but with peace. You will notice it quietly at first, doors opening without effort, opportunities aligning, favor flowing naturally. What you used to force will now unfold. You won't have to push, you'll be pulled by purpose. This is divine acceleration, not born of striving, but of surrender, as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 3, verse 8. The wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. End of. That is what's happening to you now. You are being carried by a wind that doesn't announce its direction, but always lands you exactly where you need to be. The Spirit of God is your current, invisible yet unstoppable. You no longer need to chase what is already chasing you. When the tide turns, it doesn't just move forward, it sweeps away what no longer belongs. The same current that carries you will cleanse you. Old fears, outdated attachments, and false identities are being washed away. You don't have to cling to what's passing. Let it drift. The water knows where to take it. Every letting go now makes room for the arrival of new strength, new peace, new revelation. The turning of the tide also brings back what once drifted away. Some dreams will return to you, not as they were, but as they were meant to be. What once seemed impossible will come with ease because the timing is now right. You will find yourself walking into situations that feel strangely familiar, places where you once struggled. But this time, the outcome is different. It's not déjà vu. It's divine complétion. You'll feel lighter as you move. Not because the journey changed, but because your spirit did. You've learned to float instead of fight. You've learned to follow the flow of grace rather than resist it with anxiety. That's what trust looks like in motion. There will still be waves, but they will carry you now, not drown you. Every challenge that remains will work for your development, not your destruction. You've learned to read the rhythm of heaven, to wait when the waters are still, and to move when they surge. That awareness is spiritual maturity. You are entering a season of swift fulfillment. What once took years will happen in days. What used to feel stuck will suddenly shift. Heaven's timeline has accelerated, and your obedience has qualified you to ride this wave. Stay humble. Stay ready. Stay light. The wind of God moves fastest through hearts unburdened by fear. Don't try to explain this new momentum to everyone. Not all will understand how peace can move faster than panic. They'll see results and call it luck. But you'll know it's the wind. It's the same breath that whispered life into you, now pushing you toward completion. Chosen one, the current of heaven is carrying you home to purpose, to promise, to peace. You've weathered the stillness and the storm, and now the waters obey your endurance. Stand firm at the helm, not as one steering by sight, but as one guided by spirit. The tide has turned, and you are the vessel grace refuses to let sink. So lift your gaze to the horizon. The waves that once threatened you now bow beneath your command. The winds that once scattered your plans now fill your sails. The turning of the tide is not your ending. It is the motion of your miracle beginning to unfold. The horizon ahead glows with quiet promise. What once felt distant now draws near. Carried by winds that know the coordinates of your destiny, you no longer chase miracles, they recognize your faith and find you. Every wave that rises beneath you now sings of divine direction and fulfilled purpose. Your story is not meant to stay hidden. What you've carried, survived, and overcome is no longer just for you. It has become a message wrapped in flesh, a living letter written by the hand of grace. You are entering the season where your testimony will travel farther than your voice. Heaven intends to use your journey as proof that endurance still leads to glory. Everything that once silenced you will now become the microphone of your purpose. The same tears that watered your pain will now water other hearts with hope. You don't need a platform to be heard. Truth finds its way to open ears. Your life has become a pulpit built from broken pieces restored by mercy. This is why your voice matters now. You have walked through the shadows and found light that others need to see. You have fought storms that others are still learning to navigate. What you carry is not for pride, it's for healing. When you speak of what God has done, you create paths for others to follow home. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Corinthians, chapter 1, verse 4. He comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble, with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. That is the rhythm of testimony. Comfort flows downward, and hope multiplies through those who once cried. The miracle isn't just that you survived, it's that you still have softness left in you, compassion that hasn't hardened, faith that hasn't expired. The world needs that kind of light, now more than ever. When you share your story, you're not seeking attention, you're scattering seeds. Every word of honesty becomes a spark in someone else's darkness. Every truth spoken in humility becomes a map for the lost. You don't need eloquence, you just need sincerity. Your story already carries heaven's authority. So, if this message reaches your heart, let your response be gentle but real. Like this message, not for numbers, but as a small flame of agreement, a way of saying, I see myself in this. End of share it. As though passing a torch to someone who may be walking through the same night you once did. You never know whose dawn might depend on your light. And leave a comment below, just a few words that come from your heart. Think of it as carving a small stone of gratitude along this shared path, a sign that you were here, that faith touched you, What you write may be the quiet sentence that gives strength to a stranger reading in silence. And if you feel this space has poured peace into your spirit, if it has been water to your dry ground, then consider keeping that river flowing. When you donate, you're not giving away, you're planting continuation. Think of it as tending a fire on a cold mountain night. Your small branch of kindness keeps the warmth alive for those still climbing. There's beauty in giving quietly. It's like placing a candle in the window for travelers you may never meet. Each gesture, whether through a like, a share, a comment, or a gift, becomes light that reaches beyond you. Your donation is not a demand, it's an echo of gratitude. A whisper saying, "Let this message reach another heart that needs it." When you subscribe, you're not joining a list, you're joining a circle of witnesses. It's a silent agreement between souls who believe that faith, hope, and love still move mountains. You become part of the current that carries these words to unseen shores. None of this is obligation, it is invitation. Your engagement is like rain returning to the sea. It doesn't diminish you. It completes the cycle of giving and receiving. When you participate, you remind heaven that gratitude still exists on earth. Your testimony matters. Your light matters. The way you choose to respond through kindness, through generosity, through connection, ripples far beyond what your eyes can measure. God has trusted you with influence, not to build your name, but to amplify His love through yours. Let every action come from joy, not duty. Let every offering of attention, of support, of time, be a melody played by a grateful heart. The world doesn't need perfection, it needs authenticity. And that's exactly what you bring when you give, share, comment, or simply show up. Like, share, comment, subscribe, or donate. Only if your spirit feels the warmth of agreement. Let it be your quiet amen to what you've received here. When gratitude moves freely, heaven smiles. Your story is already speaking. Chosen one, let it continue to shine. Someone, somewhere, is waiting for your light to reach them, and it will. There are moments in life when blessings no longer come and go like passing seasons, but begin to stay. You have entered that kind of season now, the season of sustained favor. What once flickered like a candle in the wind has become a steady flame. You no longer live from miracle to miracle. You walk in an atmosphere of divine consistency. The heavens above you are open, and grace has made its home in your everyday. This is not luck. It is the reward of endurance. You have learned to remain faithful not only in storms but also in sunshine. Many can pray in pain, but few can stay grateful in peace. You have learned both. That's why your favor will remain. God can trust you now, not because you're flawless, but because you've proven that comfort will not make you careless. It was written in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 12. The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of His bounty, to send rain on your land in season, and to bless all the work of your hands. That is your promise now. The heavens above you are no longer a passing rain cloud, but an open reservoir. Every step you take carries the fragrance of divine rain. The blessings coming are not occasional, they are perpetual. You've stepped into rhythm with heaven, and everything around you begins to grow accordingly. Sustained favor looks different from sudden favor. Sudden favor lifts. Sustained favor stabilizes. It anchors you in peace that does not depend on circumstances. You don't wake up wondering if God is with you. You live knowing He is. This confidence does not make you proud. It makes you grounded. It keeps you humble enough to keep learning and strong enough to keep giving. In sustained favor, even ordinary moments become holy. A conversation becomes a channel of grace. A day at work becomes an act of worship. You begin to see how every detail of your life carries divine fingerprints. The same Spirit that carried you through fire now walks with you through calm waters, reminding you that peace is not the absence of battle, but the evidence of victory. This kind of favor doesn't mean you'll never face challenge again. It means challenge can no longer shake you. You've been through too much to be moved easily now. The winds that once bent you only made your roots go deeper. You no longer fear loss because you've seen how God restores. You no longer doubt delay because you've seen how God redeems time. You are anchored. That's why your favor will last. You are now a vessel of stability for others. People will come to you not just for encouragement, but for example. They will see how peace follows you and wonder why. You will not need to preach it. You will simply live it. Sustained favor doesn't make noise. It radiates assurance. It's not a spotlight. It's sunlight constant, quiet, and life-giving. The days ahead will carry grace that feels effortless. But remember, it's not effortlessness that sustains favor. It's intimacy. Keep the same closeness with God that sustained you in your valley. Don't let abundance dull your dependence. When comfort tries to make you forget your altar, return to it quickly. The secret of sustained favor is continual gratitude. You will notice that even your prayers will change. They will sound less like requests and more like conversations between friends. You will speak with God not as a beggar, but as a beloved child walking with their Father. That's what open heaven feels like, not loud miracles, but quiet, companionship, chosen one. You are now walking in divine rhythm. You no longer need to run to catch up with blessings. They match your pace. You've become the kind of person who carries atmosphere. Wherever you go, peace follows. Heaven recognizes you, and earth responds accordingly. So walk slowly, breathe deeply, and remain grateful. Don't rush this peace, let it stay. You've spent years learning how to survive. Now you'll learn how to stay blessed without fear of losing it. This is your inheritance, not just favor, but sustained favor. You've stepped into a life where grace no longer visits, it resides. Every breath is proof of promise kept, and every sunrise is evidence that heaven is still open over your name. The light around you no longer flickers, it flows steady, certain, like a river that has finally found its rightful course through your spirit. You have become the calm after every storm, carrying unbroken peace wherever you walk. Heaven lingers, and the fragrance of sustained favor fills the air. Every journey with God comes full circle. There are beginnings born from pain, middles shaped by testing, and endings sealed by revelation. You have reached the place where everything starts to make sense, not because life became easy, but because your spirit has learned to see with eternal eyes. The long road of surrender has brought you to the completion of a divine cycle. What was once confusion has become clarity. What was once loss has become legacy. Completion in heaven doesn't mean stopping. It means fulfillment. It is the moment when what was promised meets what was prepared. You are now standing inside the answer to prayers you once whispered with trembling lips. The season of building in silence is over. The fruit of your faith is visible. The unseen work of grace has matured into testimony. Looking back, you can see it clearly now, how every chapter, even the painful ones, led here. The betrayals that broke your heart purified your motives. The delays that frustrated you refined your patience. The loneliness that silenced you sharpened your hearing. God was not ignoring you. He was aligning you. Every detour was a design. Every wound, a doorway. Nothing was wasted. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, the end of a matter is better than its beginning. And this ending carries that sacred weight of wisdom. You've moved beyond asking why to simply saying thank you. That is the mark of maturity, when gratitude replaces the need for explanation. Completion feels different from triumph. It doesn't shout, it exhales. It carries quiet reverence. The peace of someone who finally understands the pattern behind the pain. You are no longer the person who started this path. The old you was full of questions. The new you is full of trust. Now heaven closes one chapter only to open another. But before you step forward, pause. Let yourself feel the gravity of this moment. You have finished the season of survival and entered the rhythm of stewardship. What you carry now is not just your story, it's the echo of everyone who will be strengthened because you didn't give up. This is your sealing season. When God seals something, it cannot be undone. The lessons are complete. The wounds have closed. The fire has done its work. The gold of your faith gleams, refined and ready. You no longer chase proof, you embody it. Your endurance has become your evidence. The same angels who walked beside you in the valley now surround you in celebration. Not loud rejoicing, but quiet reverence, the kind of joy that heaven reserves for those who finish faithfully. You are not being applauded for perfection, but for perseverance. The heavens celebrate completion because it mirrors the heart of the Creator, who never starts what he won't finish. Rest in that truth. The cycle has come to a close, and the seal of favor rests upon you. You are free to move forward without fear, because what is complete cannot be undone. Every promise that was written for your life has now taken root. The soil of your heart is fertile again, ready for new instruction, new purpose, new growth. You'll notice that even your prayers will shift. They will sound less like pleading and more like partnership. You've moved from asking, "Lord, help me," to saying, "Lord, use me." That's how heaven knows a soul is ready for greater purpose. Completion is not the end, it's the beginning of usefulness. Chosen one. This is where God ties together the threads of your story. The pain, the patience, the praise, they all weave into one tapestry of grace. From a distance, the pattern looked chaotic. Now, up close, it shines with order and design. You've learned that divine timing is never late, it's always layered. Every event carried meaning. Every delay carried mercy. Every silence carried purpose. So breathe deeply. You have crossed the finish line of one season and stand at the threshold of another. Heaven's seal is upon your obedience, and the evidence of favor surrounds your steps. The cycle of trial has ended, and the rhythm of continual peace begins. You are no longer waiting for fulfillment, you are living in it. Walk forward now, not in haste, but in holy confidence. The circle has closed. The story is whole, and the one who began the good work in you has indeed brought it to completion. You now stand complete, carrying the quiet strength of fulfillment. Every scar has turned into light, and every prayer has become a steady pulse of peace. The circle is closed, yet endless in meaning. Your obedience echoes through eternity, proof that what God finishes always remains radiant, unbroken, and alive within you. You have reached the closing of this journey, but heaven's conversation with you is far from over. What has been spoken here was never just words, it was alignment, restoration, and awakening. You are not leaving this moment empty. You are leaving filled with peace, with clarity, with the quiet strength of someone who has walked through transformation and come out shining. If these words have touched you, let your heart respond in whatever way feels right. Like this message, if it felt like a reflection of your own story, a small, gentle way of saying, "I received this." Share it if you know someone who is standing where you once stood, still searching for proof that God remembers them. Your act of sharing is like handing a lantern into another person's night. Leave a comment below, just a few words. Honest and simple. Think of it as carving a memory in the garden of light we've built together. Each word written there is a testimony that faith still speaks. And if your heart feels led to help this message, reach further to nurture it, so that more souls can find peace. You may donate. Not out of obligation, but as an offering of gratitude. Picture it as placing a single stone into a river. Your small act creates ripples that reach unseen shores. Every seed of kindness multiplies when sown with love. Subscribe if your spirit longs to stay connected to words that feed your faith. This space is not a channel. It is a fellowship of chosen hearts walking together through revelation and renewal. Let your response, in whatever form, be a whisper of gratitude. When you give, share, comment, or simply linger here in peace, heaven hears your yes. End of. The message does not end here. It continues through you. Carry the light forward.